If you look closely at a modern industrial control system, it operates a lot like the human body. To understand how to select the right hardware, we have to look at how these biological parts translate to steel and silicon. The brain is the PLC's central processing unit, executing logic and making decisions. Below the brain is the spine, or backplane, the primary data bus carrying messages. Finally, the senses are your I/O modules, nerve endings reaching into the plant, reading conditions, and sending actions. Designing a system requires balancing the upfront cost of individual components against the long-term agility of the entire process. Miscalculating this balance leads to one of two outcomes: an expensive, over-engineered rack for a simple task, or a rigid bottleneck that forces a complete system overhaul the moment your production line needs to expand. Navigating these choices effectively means evaluating the expansion potential of the spine, the precision of the sensors, and the physical limits of the control panel. Defining exactly what you need from these core components is the first step in moving from a simple parts list to a robust system architecture. Let's start with the spine. Your lowest cost, simplest option is a fixed-style PLC. The CPU and a specific set of I/O points are built into one solid, predetermined unit. You get a cheap, compact footprint, but you sacrifice expansion. If your plant adds a new conveyor and you need 3 more inputs, or if a single built-in relay burns out, you have to replace the entire fixed unit. The middle ground is the stackable style. Here, the CPU and I/O modules are separate, but they click directly into each other without needing a separate base unit. You gain the ability to add parts later. The trade-off happens during maintenance. To swap out a broken module in the middle of a stackable system, you have to physically disconnect the backplane for every single module downstream of it, taking them offline. That brings us to the modular base style. You buy a separate base unit with a built-in backplane, and individual modules slide into dedicated empty slots. Because the modules don't rely on each other for physical connection, you can pull one out while the rest stay active. High-end modular systems even allow for hot swapping, meaning you replace a module while the PLC remains fully powered, keeping your control process running. The catch is that a modular base configuration requires the most physical panel space and carries the highest initial price tag. Your choice of spine dictates your future downtime. If seconds of lost production cost you thousands of dollars, paying upfront for modularity keeps your plant online. Once the spine is set, you need to connect the CPU's logic to the physical environment using I/O modules. The most common type is discrete I/O. This provides straightforward on or off, true or false control. You use discrete modules for binary questions, like checking if a photo eye sees a box, or firing a basic relay. Discrete is cheap and easy to troubleshoot, but it is strictly binary. It gives you no visibility into the gray areas of your process. When you buy discrete DC modules, you have to specify syncing or sourcing. In a syncing configuration, the PLC provides the reference voltage, usually 0 volts, to complete the circuit. In a sourcing setup, the PLC provides the actual source voltage, like 24 volts DC. You must match these correctly with your field devices. Wiring a sourcing sensor into a sourcing input means no current flows. The circuit fails, and you risk damaging the hardware. For non-binary data, we use analog I/O. This visualizes a continuous wave graph that allows you to measure exact liquid levels in a tank or open a control valve to precisely 33%. Analog modules read exact ranges, like 4 to 20 milliamps or 0 to 10 volts. Analog hardware requires you to choose a resolution. A higher bit resolution yields higher accuracy for temperature or pressure measurements, but it increases both the cost per I/O point and the complexity of your ladder logic. Selecting I/O is a matter of auditing the physical field. Match the electrical polarity and buy exactly the precision you need for variable data. Complex setups require specialty modules. High-speed modules read rapid encoder pulses, tracking positional data independent of the CPU scan. Communication modules give you dedicated ports to expand your system, pushing data out over Ethernet protocols to plant-wide networks. Adding modules creates a real estate problem. High hardware counts quickly lead to congested control panels and a massive increase in physical wiring labor. Is panel spaces tight? Look for high-density I/O modules that pack more points into a single slot, and consider specialized wiring solutions like zip links to eliminate hand-wiring individual screw terminals. You also have to check the environmental certifications. If the rack is mounted near heavy machinery, verify the hardware has passed strict vibration and extreme temperature testing so it survives the factory floor. Buying specialty hardware solves control problems, but you must account for physical space and wiring methods to ensure the final installation is actually maintainable. Now we return to the CPU. Your primary concerns here are memory size, which can easily reach 50 megabytes or more in modern controllers, and the onboard communication protocols, like Ethernet IP or Modbus TCP. A CPU with high memory capacity gives you room for massive logic programs. But more importantly, it provides the storage needed for extensive onboard data logging and keeping all your program documentation right on the device. This chart shows the process of power budgeting. No matter how powerful your CPU is, it relies on the power supply. You have to calculate the total current required by the CPU and every module. Looking at row B, we see our 9-slot base supplies exactly 2600 milliamps of 5-volt power. We list every piece of hardware in the rack and add up their draw to find the maximum current required. Here in row E, our modules demand 1415 milliamps. We subtract the required current from the supplied current to find our remaining current available. Row F proves we have a safe margin of 1185 milliamps left over. Exceeding your power budget creates an unsafe configuration that can lead to system brownouts. Running this math before you buy ensures the system remains stable under full load. This chart maps out your final decision based on scale and complexity. If you are an OEM building a standalone machine, you sit in the lower left. You want to prioritize high-density discrete I/O and lean toward fixed or stackable bases to keep costs and panel footprints strictly contained. If you are optimizing a growing plant, you live in the upper right. You need to invest in modular bases, high-resolution analog modules, and Ethernet-ready CPUs with hot swap capabilities to ensure continuous production. For maintenance teams, focus heavily on quality-of-life features. Look for CPUs with removable memory card support so you can perform program downloads and field replacements without needing a laptop. The overarching rule is to specify hardware for the process you will need tomorrow, while staying within the budget you have today. Outline your requirements, run your exact power budget math, and verify your environmental ratings before finalizing any purchase order. Navigating these hardware trade-offs ensures you are building a reliable foundation for your operation, rather than simply assembling a collection of parts.